Joining us now to talk more about that is Karen Leder, a constitutional law and civil rights partner at HSPRD. That's a mouthful law firm. Karen, thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much for having me.
So can you kind of explain this interpretation of the 14th Amendment and how it applied specifically to abortion in this ruling?
Sure. So, Roe v. Wade and the cases that followed it looked to the 14th Amendment, which in part guarantees a right to certain fundamental liberties, and said that the right to abortion, or conversely, the right to not to be forced to bear a child against your will, is a right that is protected by the 14th Amendment's protection of liberties, and specifically the right to certain types of privacy that apply to really fundamental aspects of human life, such as the right to procreate, the right to use contraception, the right to form families, things like that.
So Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker has been saying that this state will continue to be a safe haven. We are surrounded by states where abortion will be illegal. What are the legal implications for pregnant people who are coming into Illinois to have abortions when they live in states where abortion is banned?
That's a really good question, and I think that's something that Illinois and many states are starting to sort out and try to see what the bounds of the protections that we can offer are. We see that states are trying to make sure, states including Illinois, that when people do travel to Illinois for health care and abortion care, and providers also want to provide that they will be protected. And I think that that's an issue that's starting to be addressed now that this decision has come down, but it is also, we started to see it with the Texas abortion law as well, and I think that in the coming weeks and as this all unfolds, we'll see more about what is possible in terms of protections that can be offered, and that may also be something that Congress nationally could focus on in terms of possible federal laws that protect what states choose to do now that the Supreme Court has essentially left states to deal with this issue.
Let's talk more along those lines. Attorney General Merrick Garland says abortion pills are legal in every state, but what about, do you see a fight coming between each state?
I mean, I think that these are exactly the types of issues that you're asking about, and certain states like Illinois and others have really pledged to protect their own laws guaranteeing healthcare access, and this is something that certainly will be targeted, and there should be the opportunity for states to protect their decisions to guarantee healthcare options for people who need them.
So we are talking about a 50-year precedent now overturned, huge implications across the country. What are you looking for in terms of next steps?
Well, I think that there are a number of things that are really important. I mean, this decision and the decisions from the Supreme Court that preceded it really show that we're in scary times and difficult territory, because this, as you've noted, is a real departure of 50 years of precedent. It's the first time that a constitutional right has been taken away from a group of people, from the Supreme Court. There are a number of things that can be done. There's been attention given to the potential for federal legislation. Whether or not there's the political will and force for that remains to be seen. But short of actually codifying Roe, there are a number of things that the federal government can do to shore up healthcare rights.
Flip side of that, though, could federal government also push a federal ban.
That's one of the
abortion,
concerns. And, I think that that's something that many people are very strongly considering as they evaluate next options. We, fortunately have in Illinois a state government that has looked at this issue very thoroughly, and other state governments that have guaranteed the right to abortion care access are doing similar things. And so those are all very important. And I think that, people who care very much about reproductive health issues are also looking at forms of mutual aid and abortion funds and, options that are providing health care to women and have been providing health care to women for a very long time.
All right, Karen Lederer, thanks so much for joining us this morning with your expertise. We will have much more on this issue throughout the morning, of course.
Coming up in